All right, hey, the level of surprise that you find yourself feeling when you're playing pool is directly proportionate to your level of play, essentially. Okay? And I know this because Jolie was talking to me about this, and he was like, he made that statement, and I'm like, yes, Jolie Poo, correct again. And the reason why I know this is because as I wanted to go up to be a better player, to level up my game, I actually told myself that exact idea. I was way too surprised with what was happening with the cue ball, and that's it. Not as surprised with the object ball because I'm a ball pocketer, right? But the cue ball is what always surprised me. I was just constantly surprised, okay? And I knew that I need to be less surprised by what happens. And I went and did a lot of training on where's the cue ball going? Where's the cue ball going? Where's the cue ball going? How is this working? How is this working? How is this working? So I just studied and tried to figure out common shots. And then I went from common shots to really doing this process where I design my shot, I set up on my shot, I fold, I'm calm, I visualize, I deliver, and then I see where the cue ball went versus where I thought it went, okay? And that's kind of how I came on to thickness, I guess you'd say, as I started realizing it really matters where we go in the pocket to where the cue ball's gonna go. So it's like the details, the details, the details. So when I'm showing you guys these runs, and I'm doing marked runs, and I'm doing 50-80 stuff and playing the cue ball to a certain position, what I'm really trying to do is get an awareness of where the cue ball is going to go. After, first, I'm trying to get awareness of thickness and pocketing the ball. So I don't want to be surprised by the thickness. Okay, so first, you want to be not surprised by the thickness. We need to be not surprised by the thickness of the overlap of the cut, because that's whether the ball goes in or not. Okay, so now as I've played more and hit more shots and 50-80 training and all that stuff, I'm far less surprised with the pocketing. And because I've worked on the cue ball with this, meaning I work on, and I just did a video on 20 shots. I just did a video on 50 shots. This will probably come out before this one. And basically all I'm trying to do when I'm 50-80ing and moving the tip around the cue ball is I'm trying to limit the amount of surprise on the shot. I want to hit a shot and not be surprised. And I want to practice that over 10 shots or 20 shots or 30 shots. And then I want to move the tip around and not be surprised with that different strike. And basically that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to get more familiar with what happens with the overlap of this ball, meaning the thickness to pocket it. So I'm working on my ball pocketing, let's say. And then I also want to work on where's this ball going, which is position play, which is the physics and the geometry, right? So I'm working on my biomechanics, which is my aim and my thickness. And then I'm trying not to be surprised by my biomechanics. And I'm trying not to be surprised by how the cue ball reacts with the object ball and where it goes afterwards with the rails and things. And with my biomechanics, the reason why I hit shots like that over and over and over again is because I'm trying to download the feeling of what my cue is doing so I'm not surprised. The challenge is as you get more pressure and you get a heightened sense of what's happening, any sort of differentiation in what you think is going to happen becomes surprise. What happens when you're scared, jumped out, someone scares you, surprises you, surprise, jank, jank, jank. My brother did that when we were kids. He's a year older than me, and we were home, our parents, we were latchkey kids, and I was in the shower, and we had watched Psycho like the night or two before. We had this huge butcher knife. And we had a curtain on the shower. And I'm showering. We live in an apartment in Anoka. And he rips open the curtain with his knife and he goes, yite, yite, yite. It scared me so bad. And it was so funny. I wasn't like scared like I was in danger. I just got surprised. And it was super, super funny. We had this giant butcher knife. I mean, my parents, we were latchkey. I mean, we were probably 12 and 11. I don't know. We were young, right? 10 and 11. Who knows? Shit. Oh, that's why I say I was raised feral. But yeah, that was funny. Okay, so when we're surprised, it's not good. It raises our heart rate. It raises our cortisol, which is like the flight or fight, adrenaline kind of thingy, when we're nervous and scared or whatever, anxious. And then our oxygen kind of gets less in our brain and all that stuff. So we don't want that when we're playing pool. The reason why pro players look really calm and like some of them just look catatonic is because they've hit so many shots, they're not surprised by what happens. Except for maybe Earl. He's always surprised. Pointing at the table and waving his cue around and slamming it and breaking it. But if you talk about, I just spit all over the place. If you talk about your normal European, Asian, pro, they're a little more stoic. And the reason why is because they're not surprised. They're not surprised. They just, everything kind of goes where they think it will. And once in a while, it doesn't happen. And they might go, that didn't work. I guess I'll just figure it out and fix it, But then that keeps them very calm, right? So you see them playing calm. And the reason why they're calm is because they understand you need to be calm. And they're not surprised because they have tens and tens of thousands of shots behind them. So they know where this thing's going and how that ball goes in the pocket and all that stuff. So, if you see them when they're at their worst, you might see them monkey tilting and struggling and missing balls and rattling shots or whatever. That's fine. I mean, that can happen too. But in general, when you see a person over like, I don't know, maybe 750-ish to 840, whatever the score rates are, usually pretty less surprised. More surprised at 750 than you are at 810. More surprised at 810 than you probably are at 840. But that's it. It's like the higher you get, the less surprised you are because the more you've worked to understand how these things are going to happen. So basically, what we're doing as we're trying to improve at pool is we're trying to gain this knowledge and be present so that we can learn so that we're less surprised, right? And so there's no value in reacting and acting surprised when something doesn't happen in your training because, as my guy in golf, Manalo on golf, you're amateur hours, baby. He's like this Puerto Rican guy. He's so good. I've talked to him before, but he's like the greatest teacher and content guy that there is. He's the best. But it's like we're amateur hours, right? We shouldn't be surprised that we're not like 800 Fargos. Like this is what we do, right? And I've just seen it, right? I've just seen it. It's very, very, very detrimental to be surprised by what happened. I was watching two beginners play each other, and I've did this in other videos, but the lady was running out and had a shot on the 8-ball, and she was shocked by her position, and she was totally fine. And if you really thought about it, you're like, man, lady, you actually are pretty good position for what an amateur, like a total beginner would do on a bar table, an 8-ball in a match where you're nervous. Like you're actually in a good spot on the 8-ball. I'm surprised you're that good on it. That's what I said from looking at it from the outside. But she was completely flustered. Like her face got red. She was like pointing at the table and she was shaking her head and she was walking around and talking to herself. And she was so surprised that as a beginner in pool that she missed her shape by 6 inches. And I'm like, well, this can't be good. And so basically I looked over at our team and I said, hey, Jerry's going to win this game. And she missed the ball and Jerry won the game. So being surprised, it doesn't help us to learn. It doesn't help us to be calm. It doesn't help us when we're competing. It doesn't help us to be, to keep our heart rate down, all those things. It's, there's not like a huge value in being surprised. That's it. It's just, and the thing is accept that you'll be surprised less if you gain more knowledge and experience. That's it. So instead of focusing on being surprised and being upset and like shaking your head and waving at the table, and I don't know why I'm so surprised. It's like when people like send me messages and they're like, I'm surprised that I can practice and train and then I can go out and play and I don't play as good. Well, if you have acceptance, then you're not surprised, okay? So I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a person that trains really well and doesn't play as well when you go out and play in matches, there is a simple answer to that. It's called acceptance. And I'm going to give you a formula. Anything you're doing in training, just assume you're only going to pull at the peak, most of the time, 70% of that stuff that you're able to do in training, about 70% of that is going to come out when you're playing and competing. Because of nerves, because of different equipment, because of things in your life that distract you, because of not preparing, because of all these things. And so if we go there and realize that, then we're not surprised when we go play, and we can stay present, stay relaxed, we can have acceptance and say, okay, this is my practice for a week. Okay, this is my practice for the week, and here's my league night. So I practice for a week, and then I go to my league night, and I say, I'm going to get about 70% of my week's practice on this league night. Well, that's probably going to be better than if I didn't practice. It'll for sure be better, and it's probably better than the week before. My outcome might not be better because why? Variance. I might have a different player, it might be different equipment. I might have something unlucky that happened. There's all kinds of things. But the bottom line is that we're not talking about one league night. We're talking about running back over time our system and our process, which is we train, we let it download, we rest, we train, we get it, and then we go and we have acceptance and say, dear 6 pound 7 ounce baby Jesus, let 70% of that come out. And if I'm kind of sneaky lucky, maybe it's my night where 90% comes out or 100%. But between that 70 and 100%, it could go down to 60, it could go down to 50. Because what happens? I train for a week for my league. I get all pumped up with all these expectations, and then I say, okay, I get there and I miss the first couple shots, and now I get negative. I start spiraling. I start going down to like 40%. And I'm like, well, I did all this practice and it didn't pay off. Well, if we would have had more acceptance and we would have been more curious and we would have just said, all right, let's just take what we get and be present and just have acceptance, we're good to go, right? And we can come back from that pit and sort of go forward and try to at least stay in that 70% of what we learned the week before range. And maybe we can even turn the tide and get to 75 or 80 or 85%. And then as we go through this process of training and checking it out on league night, then we can grow from that experience and we can gain knowledge from that experience. And we can say, okay, I used to go and practice, go to leagues, like completely go off the rails and get mad and scratch my head and act surprised. And I'm so surprised by it. But now I got to leagues and I realized there's no surprises. The only surprise is that I'm surprised by it. So I go with acceptance. I find out what happened. It helps me stay focused, and probably I'm less surprised. So that's it. So the less surprised we are, it's like the better prepared we are, even with that whole scenario I just said about leagues, the better prepared we are, both physically, mentally, emotionally, all those things, the less surprised we'll be, okay? The better we are prepared, the less surprised we'll be when it's time to play. And we can practice dealing with acceptance and not being surprised when we are practicing. So when we're practicing, instead of reacting and getting upset, and I can't believe that ball didn't go in. I can't believe, it just doesn't happen. This cue's different. I don't know. I've got someone else's cue. I've got this excuse. So maybe this or that. You know, I had kind of a weird day today. I went to the gym. This happened. It's like, no, just have acceptance, take responsibility, and just keep hitting the shots and be less surprised, okay? Like when I play pool, I grab a cue and I hit it. And I'm never surprised. Like we were playing here during the barbecue, and I had this cue that was probably an $80 cue, and it was a shaft it was a maple shaft, and the tip was flat. And I'm just gonna play with this because my cue was right over there too. And I'm just like, I'm just going to play with this. I was playing with Mike's kid, Jack. And I was like, I'll just play with Jack's cue because I don't care how I perform and how I do. And I knew that it was going to kill my performance. And there was 20 people here. And I'm like, I don't care. I want Jack to know that we're partners, and I want him to, he's an 11-year-old kid and he's excited about playing here with all the people. And I'm just like, let me just use Jack's cue. And that'll give me one more connection point with Jack when he's here. So it's very important to Jack, and I knew this, that he got to play pool with me. And I'm like, cool, like that's awesome. And then I knew if I use Jack's cue and we're sharing cues and we're fist bumping and stuff, it's gonna kill my ability to hit an accurate shot. It doesn't really matter. And so when I miss a ball, I'm not surprised. I don't get upset. I don't make excuses. I don't say, whatever. I mean, I don't think I did that. But anyways, at least when he was here, I didn't. Maybe after I left, I might have said, man, that cue, that was rough. But in general, what I'm saying is, when I'm in the moment, it's not always about the result. Sometimes it's about other things that are more important, right? And not being surprised by the cue performance just allows me to be present and to be with Jack and make sure that he's having a good time, because it's not about me showing off and making shots and being a hero. It's about my moment with Jack. And it's more so than my moment with Jack. It's more so Jack's moment with me, and Jack's moment with his father, and Jack's moment with his father and me together, and Jack's moment in here with a bunch of adults and feeling good and welcome and having fun. That's what was important. So not being surprised by the outcome and flustered and all that stuff. So what I'm trying to say is, one way to not be surprised is to have acceptance even before you go into the situation. So that's it. I'm just spamming stuff at you guys. So hopefully this is helpful. I'm just here every day trying to help you guys with this stuff. So I'm doing my best. I'm working over here. I'm trying to run a cult. I love you guys. We'll see you later.